Hi again then guys, and welcome to another individual breakdown of one of the newest cars added to Forza 7, of course, in part of the most recent car pack. Not the free one, of course, this is the more traditional approach to a car pack, and this is one of those cars which I didn't actually realise was arriving in that pack. I didn't really look into the clues or the announced list of what the pack was going to be. I was focused much more on the Porsche 917 Pink Pig. When I saw this one in the list for the pack, I was very pleasantly surprised, because I've never been a fan of the KTM X-Bow. I'm actually more of a fan of KTM's motorbikes, especially the RC8, than I am of their car. However, around probably, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe now, whenever it was that the X-Bow GT4 was first announced, I loved it. It looks like such a cool little race car, almost like a mini prototype in some ways. It's got this really sharp, angular, aggressive style, which is at the same time carried over from the road car, but very significantly added to with the full fairing. And even with the fairing, the roof in particular, the windscreen, they are integrated into the car in this really cool way, with the forward hinging cockpit that opens completely rather than just the doors, in a very Saab Aero X concept style. And of course, those aren't the only cars to do it. Concept cars have had that for decades, but this is one of the few occasions where you see it used in something that actually is going to be purchasable or raceable. And in the case of this car, it certainly is raceable. This is a GT4 category race car, which there aren't a huge amount of in many racing games, so it's pretty cool to see this one added. And although it doesn't have the sheer power or the sheer torque or even the sheer straight line speed to worry many of the other racing cars in the game, what it does have, in spades in fact, is raw, pure cornering ability. Because this X-Bow is insane through corners. It feels absolutely fantastic. Now, the price tag is irrelevant, of course, on any DLC car, because you get it for free once you buy the pack anyway. But as it happens, 400 grand, it's reasonable. That's only 30 grand less than the Porsche 917, which is kind of weird when you think of it that way, but I think that's more a case of the Porsche being surprisingly cheap rather than this car being surprisingly expensive. 400 grand seems pretty reasonable, given that this car can quite easily outrun, for instance, supercars or even hypercars with 2 or 3 times the power, because although it doesn't have insane power, it's got 326 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque, and it is, kind of ironically, but not surprisingly when you look at the rule side of things, heavier than the road car. The road-going versions, of course, of the X-Bow are well under a metric ton, whereas this one weighs a little bit more. It's 1,067 kilos. Now, consequently, the horsepower per ton doesn't sound that great. It's only 306, which is more like what you'd expect from, say, an exotic sports car, something like a TVR, for instance. But at the same time, I would say that the approach that you should have when you first drive the X-Bow GT4 race car is, don't view it as something that's going to annihilate GT1 cars or LMPs or anything like that. You should kind of view it as having the handling signature of something like a rally car, like a WRC machine, but then if you lowered the centre of gravity, gave it stickier, wider tyres, a lower, wider stance, and even more downforce. Because to me, that's what this car feels like. It feels like a rally car on the road. It's got incredible levels of grip, phenomenal downforce, and you can throw this thing through corners like very few other race cars in the game can. And in fact, I would say that this is one of the best handling race cars in the game to date, not just of Forza 7, but perhaps even of the whole franchise. I'm not going to say it's the best handling car, because of course it's all relative. A prototype, for instance, has 2 or 3 times the power to cope with, so it's not really a fair comparison. However, in a vacuum, just driving it on its own, it feels incredible. The handling will put a smile on your face as soon as you get to the first corner. Tons of grip. It's very, very user-friendly. It's not just beginner friendly, it's friendly to everyone. If you're a pro driver, you can push the car hard. If you're a beginner, it will forgive most of your mistakes. It's got so much grip, and also it can do so much with the power that it's got to work with. And again, that's one of the things that I find very reminiscent of a WRC car, or for instance a BTCC touring car. They only have around 300 to 320 horsepower typically, but what they can do with that is really good because of that cornering ability. They're so well engineered with the grip, downforce, suspension changes. They really do make the most of what they've got. So overall, I'm really happy with this edition. I think it was an inspired choice to add to the game. It's the kind of car that you would want to see in a pack because it looks cool, it sounds cool, and the performance is unique. It feels like nothing else really in the game. I can't think of another race car that I've driven in Forza 7 at least, if not the other games as well, that feels and performs quite like this one. It has the spirit of a rally car meets touring car, but at the same time it has more of the visuals and the low, wide, squat appearance of something more like a GT1 or a prototype. And to me, that's a pretty cool combination to have. It's beginner friendly, super forgiving, but also extremely fast for what it is, especially in the S category 741 PI standard. And of course, that's not counting homologation, which can change everything with any car, but that's what you get straight out of the box. Even the 400 grand price is pretty reasonable, not that you have to buy it anyway, which is even better. So yeah, if you've got the new pack, I'd make a beeline for this one. If you haven't driven it yet, make sure you do so. It's a lot of fun, and it sure is competitive. But that's it for this pick overall. Of course, I'll see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.